What makes Cape Malay cooking special, besides the fact that it's my absolute heritage? Our flavors are unique in that it's not just one thing. I think it's almost more South African than South African recipes, and the reason for that is if you look at the flavors, they are sweet, sour, savory, salty, and spicy. That we never have umami type of flavors. But that in itself tells you that here's a fusion happening, and obviously a fusion of all of those cultures of our ancestors, slaves put together in one situation. There's no way that when you live in close proximity to each other like that, that there won't be a fusion of your cultures, your ingredients, your equipment, techniques, a little bit of this stolen here, a little bit of that borrowed across the road, and that gave rise to Cape Malay cuisine. What I also like is that we focus less on heat and more on flavor. What I love about Cape Malay cooking the most is that you can take one store cupboard ingredient, and by using these lovely spices, you can create it into something exotic. My name is Fayruza Abrahams, and I am in Belgravia at loan at the moment. So I'm obviously a third or fourth generation Cape Malay cook, and my journey with food started in my own kitchen. I'm really blessed to have grown up with my mom, my dad, grandmother, great-grandmother, and my grandfather in one household. And I think when you live with that many older people, there's no way that you can't love food and love cooking. So at the age of about 9 or 10, my grandmother started hauling me into the kitchen after school, and slowly but surely started, and in actual fact this was one of the first recipes that she taught me to cook, how to make a stew, or how to mix spices to make a stew. My grandmother used to always tell me, don't let anybody tell you who you are, let your food tell the story. And that's what I try to do. So every time I cook, whether it's an ingredient or a smell, and I sometimes catch myself saying, oh, I'm turning into my granny, or I'm turning into my mom. But that's her story, and it's a legacy, and it's a heritage. And I'm a firm believer that food brings people together. So today we are making a lovely beef stew with waterblommetjies. I also have green beans, but the story behind the waterblommetjies is, as kids growing up, we lived in close proximity to flays and dams in Grassy Park. And my grandmother and my grandpa would send myself, my cousins, my brothers out. It was cold winter months, and those days in winter kids still walked bare feet. I remember this distinctly. And she would give us a little basket, and we would actually pick these lilies off. And sometimes we'd pick things that weren't waterblommetjies, but there was the learning in it. We'd come home with produce that wasn't waterblommetjies, but we would pick these waterblommetjies, come home, and then prepare it for dinner in the evening. And often we didn't get that much because everybody in the community wanted waterblommetjies, and then my granny would substitute a cauliflower or a broccoli or green beans. I love green beans. My granny used to refer to it as the poor man's asparagus, but just to bulk it up, because with many mouths to feed, everybody wanted a bit of waterblommetjies. Waterblommetjies is a water lily, and in actual fact, in my book, I did the research. It's called Aponogeton distachios, flowers found on dams and marshes in the Western Cape. That's a small water flower if you translate it into English, a small water flower. So not only does this is what it looks like, but it also comes with a beautiful little white flower on it that people use for garnish. But this is how you know that it's ripe. You can see it's got a little pinkish tinge on top here. If it's all green, it's not ripe, but literally green at the bottom. To me it looks like a little bit of an artichoke, and then it's got the pink on top, but it only graces us with their presence during the cold winter months. So it's a stew, a wintry type of stew. Ingredients here today, the star of the show, waterblommetjies. And what I've done here, I've soaked it in water with either a little bit of vinegar or lemon juice, and that's my grandmother's trick, but it's really just to ensure that it doesn't have any slime or sand or grit from the spa or in the shop in it. So that has been soaking. I've got some green beans, like I said. I love green beans. It really complements the flavor of waterblommetjies, but that's completely optional. And then beef. Beef because I think it's so much better than lamb in this dish. It's a really robust, wintry kind of flavor. And there's always be a little bit of fat and some bone, because where there's fat and there's marrow, there's flavor. I will never use any lean cut of meat for this dish. Okay, and then some onions, more lemon, Worcester sauce, my own little spin on this, a little bit of olive oil, and then the flavors that I've got here are really, besides the spices that I'm going to cook the dish with, this is the, I'm going to make this better and take it to the next level kind of spice. So I've got some Potjie spice, smoked paprika, nutmeg, black pepper, and a little bit of origanum. This whole plate here is mine. It's not the traditional Bredie or stew or waterblommetjie recipe, but this is what makes it my own. A little bit of addition to that, and also you don't see it here, but I will whip it out of the fridge, butter. So butter is the one thing that's going to finish this dish, but that's in the fridge. And then I've got my spice baskets here. We won't be needing all of the spices, just the spices, like I said, to make a basic stew, which I am going to put on the plate. But that's basically allspice, bay leaf, and crushed chillies. That's it, and the little bits that we've got here. I never cook with measurements, man. That thing about that joke that they say, throw the ingredients until your ancestors shout yes or no, it's true. My grandmother would walk into our kitchen and say, oh, you didn't put salt in the food. I was like, but you never tasted it. It's like, I can smell it. Do you understand? So I'm saying Cape Malay cooking is really a feeling. So the method involves creating a base for your stew. And here my granny's talking to me again. A basic stew will be the same, always a little bit of oil of your choice. Today I'm healthy and I'm more conscious of what I put into my body, so I'm using olive oil. I might even put some coconut oil, onions, garlic, and then your basic Cape Malay Bredie spice. That would be allspice, bay leaves, and crushed chillies, and a little bit of cloves. So it involves braising that and putting your meat into it, and then you cook your meat till it's like soft and gooey and juicy. And then when you've done that, your stew is basically done, because waterblommetjies, green beans, or if you were using cabbage or cauliflower, it really cooks really very quickly. I like putting little baby potatoes or 1 or 2 smaller potatoes, but that's it. And then I'm going to serve this today with sweet yellow rice. You can serve it with white, but I think the yellow rice really complements the flavor of the waterblommetjies, and I wanted to make it really special today, so that's what I'm going to do. Our heritage is really important, and I think culture and heritage is something that's busy dying out. And like I mentioned before, my grandmother was the one that told me, tell your story and keep your heritage alive through food. Because I think there's no better way to get to know a culture or someone by, even if you have a partner or a spouse or a friend that you're living with, there's no better way to get to know that person but by breaking bread with them. Sorry for that term, but I literally mean it. Sitting down, sharing food, cooking with them. Because in that lies the story and the history of the why, the where, the when, the ingredients, etc. So keeping your heritage alive by cooking, eating, sharing, it's the best way to do that. Cape Malay really supposed to be, we are situated in the Bo-Kaap area, but we are bigger than that. We are all over Cape Town, but I think Cape Malay is not a thing, it's who you are. That is what makes you Cape Malay. For the full recipe for Waterblommetjie Bredie, check out for the link below, and for other recipes as delicious as that, find the link for my book.